The alien warship Dominion's Edge drifted through the asteroid belt like a metal predator hunting for prey, its hull gleaming under the distant sun's harsh light. Admiral Wrath pressed his clawed hand against the command console and studied, the blue world spinning far below. 3 cycles had passed since the Galactic Council issued their verdict on humanity, and now the time for enforcement had arrived. The humans had been classified as a primitive species, barely worth the fuel costs of this expedition, but their world contained rare minerals that would make this journey profitable. Status report. On the target world, Wrath commanded his bridge crew, his voice echoing through the chamber with the authority of someone who had conquered dozens of primitive civilizations. Lieutenant Voss, his tactical officer, manipulated the holographic display. With practiced efficiency, "Sir, the humans are still using chemical propulsion for their spacecraft. Their most advanced vessels can barely reach their own moon. Energy readings show they have recently developed nuclear fusion, but only for civilian power generation." Wrathy nodded with satisfaction. These creatures would surrender within hours once they witnessed true galactic technology. His fleet consisted of 2 ships, his own flagship and the destroyer Swift Judgment, positioned several thousand kilometers away. More than enough firepower to subdue a world that still fought wars with projectile weapons. Communications officer, any response to our arrival? Wrath asked, settling back into his command chair. Multiple transmissions from the surface, Admiral. Audio signals in various human languages, but our translation matrix is processing them. They appear to be attempting diplomatic contact. Wrath allowed himself a predatory smile. Every primitive species tried diplomacy first, before they learned the futility of resistance. Let's hear what these creatures have to say. The bridge speakers crackled to life with a chaos of human voices speaking in different languages. Fear, desperation, and anger filled the transmissions. But underneath the emotional noise, Wrath detected something unexpected. The humans weren't panicking randomly. They were coordinating their responses. Fascinating, he mused aloud. They seem more organized than our intelligence reports suggested. No matter. Organization without superior technology is meaningless. His sensor operator suddenly stiffened at his station, manipulating controls with increasing urgency. "Admiral, I'm detecting unusual energy buildups across multiple locations on the planet's surface. The energy signatures don't match any known human technology in our database." "Elaborate," Wrath demanded, his earlier confidence wavering slightly. "The patterns are ancient, sir, almost primitive in their basic structure, but the power levels are substantial. I can't identify the source or purpose of these emissions." Before Wrath could process this information fully, space around his fleet exploded into brilliant flashes of light that overwhelmed his ship's sensors. The Swift Judgment vanished in an expanding sphere of superheated plasma and twisted metal, its hull simply disintegrating under some incomprehensible force. "Shields at maximum," Wrath screamed as his own vessel shuddered under impacts that shouldn't have been possible. "Return fire, all weapons." But their advanced particle beams and plasma cannons seemed to have no effect whatsoever on the invisible attackers. Whatever was striking his ships moved faster than any known projectile weapon, yet carried kinetic energy that made their sophisticated shields utterly useless, impossible. He gasped as another impact tore through his ship's hull like it was constructed from paper. Who still uses kinetic weapons? What civilization abandons energy-based warfare? The answer came in the form of another barrage that crippled his propulsion systems and left the Dominion's Edge bleeding atmosphere into the void. Through the chaos of emergency alarms and dying crew members, Wrath heard his communications. Officer shouting something about incoming transmissions from Earth. "Put it through," he ordered, clutching his command chair as his ship spun helplessly. A single human voice filled the bridge, speaking in the galactic common tongue with perfect pronunciation. "Alien vessel, this is Earth Defense Command. You have violated our sovereign space and attacked our world. Your companion ship has been destroyed. Surrender immediately or share its fate." Wrath stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His sensors showed no human ships, no orbital installations, nothing that could account for the devastating attack that had crippled his fleet. Yet the evidence of superior firepower was undeniable. How? He whispered. Your species has barely discovered interplanetary travel. Where are your weapons? Where are your ships? The human voice replied with something that chilled Wrath's blood. Quiet confidence backed by demonstrated power. You assumed our current technology represents our capabilities. You were wrong. We are the inheritors of something far older and more dangerous than you comprehend. As if to emphasize the point, another kinetic projectile struck his ship. This one precisely targeted to disable his weapon systems without destroying the vessel entirely. The message was clear. The humans could have destroyed him completely, but chose not to. This is impossible, Wrath repeated, but the evidence surrounded him in the form of his dying ship and absent escort. Somehow, some way, humanity possessed weapons technology that surpassed anything in the galactic database. His tactical officer managed one final sensor sweep before the console sparked and died. Admiral, the projectiles came from multiple points across the planet's surface, underground installations that our scans didn't detect. The energy signature suggests they've been dormant for thousands of years. Wrath felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of conquest. Genuine fear. Not fear of death, but fear of the unknown. His civilization had encountered hundreds of species across the galaxy, cataloged their technologies, studied their capabilities. But Earth represented something entirely outside their experience. Send a distress signal, he ordered through gritted teeth. Maximum power. All frequencies. The fleet command must know what we've encountered here. As his communications officer struggled with damaged equipment to comply, Wrath stared at the blue world that had just humbled the might of the Galactic Coalition. Somewhere, down there, among creatures the galaxy had dismissed as primitives, lay technology that could challenge the established order of civilized space. The humans had been underestimated, and that mistake had cost him everything. His ship, his crew, his reputation, and possibly his life. But more importantly, it might cost the galaxy its assumptions about which species truly held power among the stars. Through his fractured viewports, Earth continued its ancient rotation, appearing as peaceful and innocent as it had when his fleet first arrived. But now Wrath knew the truth hidden beneath that deceptive calm. Humanity wasn't primitive at all. They were something far more dangerous. They were prepared. Deep beneath the Colorado mountains, Dr. Sarah Kim felt the ancient machinery responding to her commands like a sleeping giant awakening after millennia of rest. The holographic displays surrounding her workstation showed energy patterns that defied conventional physics yet operated with perfect precision under her direction. Her colleague Dr. Ben Walsh called out from across the underground command center, his voice tight with excitement and fear. Lunar installation reports full charge. Australian facility confirms target lock. Russian site shows green across all systems. Every hidden installation on the planet is ready for coordinated firing. Sarah allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction as she watched the tactical display. The alien ships had positioned themselves exactly where the automated systems had predicted they would, following gravitational patterns that any advanced, spacefaring civilization would naturally choose. The same positions their predecessors had occupied 12,000 years ago. The builders knew this day would come, she murmured, then raised her voice to address the global network of hidden facilities. All stations, this is primary control. You are authorized to engage hostile targets. Send these invaders back to whatever corner of space spawned them. The weapons that had slumbered beneath Earth's crust since before human civilization began to wake with a sound like reality itself tearing apart. Electromagnetic launchers built by hands that had never been human drew power from fusion cores that had waited patiently through the rise and fall of countless human empires. Sarah watched the energy readings climb beyond anything her generation's technology could produce. These weren't human weapons. They were the tools of Earth's previous guardians, left behind as a gift and a warning to whoever would inherit this world. The projectiles they fired moved at significant fractions of light speed, carrying kinetic energy that could shatter. Mountain's firing sequence initiated, Ben reported as the first barrage launched toward the alien fleet. Transit time to targets, 14 seconds. Through quantum-encrypted communications, Sarah could hear reports from similar facilities across the globe. Deep beneath Antarctica, weapons platforms disguised as geological formations were emerging from ice that had concealed them for millennia. Hidden installations in the Sahara, the Amazon and the Siberian wilderness were all contributing to humanity's first coordinated defense against galactic aggression. Direct hit on the smaller vessel, Ben announced with fierce satisfaction. Energy signature suggests complete. Structural failure. Target destroyed. Sarah nodded grimly as she watched the destroyer's death throes on her displays. The aliens had made a fatal assumption about humanity's technological capabilities, just as their ancient enemies had done eons ago. They saw a species still struggling with chemical rockets and assumed that represented the peak of Earth's defensive potential. Second target is attempting evasive maneuvers, another technician reported. Flagship shows significant damage to propulsion and weapons systems. They're trying to retreat. Negative, Sarah replied firmly. The builders' protocols are clear. No hostile vessel leaves this system capable of reporting our true capabilities. Prepare precision strikes to disable but not destroy. We need at least one survivor to send a message. The ancient weapons responded to her commands with an elegance that spoke of incredible engineering sophistication. Each shot was calculated, not just for accuracy but for specific tactical outcomes. The alien flagship found itself crippled but intact, broadcasting distress signals that would carry news of Earth's hidden strength to whatever civilizations had sent them. Sarah's team monitored the results with professional satisfaction mixed with profound unease. They had just revealed humanity's greatest secret to the galaxy at large, and there would be consequences. The peaceful isolation their species had enjoyed was ending permanently. Dr. Kim, her communications specialist, called out urgently. We're receiving multiple transmissions from deep space. The alien distress signals are being answered. Initial analysis suggests at least 6 different civilizations are responding. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders like a physical burden. The builders had left humanity more than just weapons. They had left them a destiny as Earth's guardians. But being a guardian meant accepting that peaceful coexistence might be impossible. How long until the first response forces arrive? She asked, already knowing the answer would change everything. Based on observed propulsion capabilities, we estimate between 60 and 72 hours for the nearest responders, came the reply. Additional forces will continue arriving for several weeks. Sarah nodded and began entering commands that would wake even more of the ancient systems. Weapons platforms were just the beginning of what the builders had left behind. Deep beneath the ocean floors, manufacturing facilities that could produce starships lay dormant, waiting for the right genetic signature to activate them. All stations, this is primary control, she announced to the global network. Initiate Phase 2 protocols. Full activation of all builder systems. Authorization, Terran Defense Emergency Alpha. Across the planet, installations that had masqueraded as natural formations for thousands of years began revealing their true nature. Antarctic ice cracked open to expose gleaming metal structures the size of cities. Ocean trenches that had been attributed to tectonic activity showed themselves to be carefully camouflaged shipyards and manufacturing centers. Sarah watched the transformation with a mixture of awe and sadness. Humanity's childhood was ending, whether they were ready or not. The species that had spent millennia fighting among themselves over resources and territory would now have to unite against threats from across the galaxy. The manufacturing facilities are responding to activation commands, Ben reported with wonder in his voice. Production estimates suggest we can have a full fleet of builder tech vessels operational within weeks. The designs in their databases are incredible. Sarah smiled grimly as she studied the technical specifications appearing on her screens. Humanity was about to leap from barely reaching their own moon to commanding technology that could challenge any force in known space. But with that power came the certainty that they would need to use it. Contact all world governments, she ordered. Tell them the masquerade is over. Earth's children are about to inherit their birthright. and the galaxy is about to learn why the builders chose this world to defend. Through the reinforced walls of the command center, Sarah could feel the vibrations of ancient machinery coming to life across the planet. The age of human expansion into space was beginning, not as explorers or conquerors, but as the rightful heirs to a defensive network that spanned the galaxy. The aliens had dismissed humanity as primitive and ancient, but they had been right about only half of that assessment. Humanity was indeed ancient inheritors of a legacy that predated most galactic civilizations by millions of years. And that ancient heritage was about to remind the galaxy why some worlds were best left alone. Professor Elena Rodriguez had spent 30 years studying the crystalline artifacts buried beneath Antarctic ice, never imagining they would become the key to humanity's survival against galactic conquest. The hieroglyphic inscriptions that had puzzled archaeologists for decades suddenly made perfect sense in the context of hostile alien contact. She stood before the emergency assembly of world leaders, their faces appearing on quantum-encrypted holographic displays from secure bunkers across the globe. The weight of revelation pressed down on her as she prepared to shatter everything humanity thought they knew about their own history. Leaders of Earth, she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. The attacks on the alien fleet were not launched by human weapons. We are not the first intelligence to call this planet home. President Chen of the Pacific Federation leaned forward on her display, skepticism clear in her expression. Professor, are you suggesting we've encountered other alien species before today? Not encountered, Elena corrected, manipulating the holographic display to show the crystalline artifacts and their translated messages. Protected by them. The beings we call the builders were what we might term galactic shepherds. They seeded promising worlds with defensive systems and then moved on to tend other gardens among the stars. General Morrison from the North American Alliance frowned at the implications. And these systems have been dormant on Earth for how long? Elena called up geological dating information that made several world leaders gasp in disbelief. The oldest installations date back approximately 12 million years. But they haven't been truly dormant. They've been watching, learning, adapting to our development as a species. She showed them sensor records from the ancient network, revealing how every human achievement had been quietly monitored and cataloged. Every radio transmission, satellite launch, nuclear test, and space mission had been analyzed by artificial intelligences that predated human civilization by eons. The builders' records make their intentions clear, Elena continued, displaying translated text that appeared in each leader's native language. They identified Earth as a world with exceptional defensive potential and established it as a fortress against threats from outside our galaxy. Prime Minister Singh of the European Confederacy interrupted with obvious concern. Professor, you mentioned threats from outside our galaxy. Are you implying there are dangers even greater than the civilizations that just attacked us? Elena nodded gravely as she brought up star charts that showed the vast emptiness between galactic clusters. The builders' records speak of entities that consume entire galaxies, leaving nothing but empty space in their wake. They established defensive networks across multiple spiral arms to serve as early warning systems and final bastions. The assembled leaders absorbed this information with varying degrees of shock and disbelief. Director Petrov of the Russian Federation was the first to grasp the full implications. These builder systems chose humanity as their inheritors. We're not just defending our world. We're defending the entire galaxy. Precisely, Elena confirmed. The weapons that just crippled the alien fleet are part of a network that spans thousands of star systems. Earth serves as a command nexus for defensive installations throughout. This region of space, President Chen's expression had shifted from skepticism to calculation. What capabilities do these systems provide us? What are we inheriting? Elena smiled grimly as she displayed technical specifications that made the assembled military leaders straighten in their chairs. Manufacturing facilities capable of producing starships at rates that would take our current industry centuries to match. Weapons platforms that can strike targets across interstellar distances. Defensive shields that can protect entire star systems from attack. But there's a cost, she continued. her tone sobering. Activation of the full network will announce to every civilization in the galaxy that Earth is no longer a primitive backwater. We'll become a major power overnight, with all the responsibilities and threats that entails. General Morrison studied the tactical readouts with a professional. The alien fleet that attacked us was clearly just a reconnaissance force. How long before larger fleets arrive? Our deep space sensors are already detecting response fleets from multiple civilizations, Elena replied. Based on their observed propulsion capabilities, we estimate the first reinforcements will arrive within 72 hours. Larger forces will continue arriving for weeks or months. The holographic displays around the conference room showed real-time tactical data streaming from newly awakened sensor networks. Dozens of alien civilizations were mobilizing fleets to investigate the destruction of the coalition reconnaissance force. Prime Minister Singh raised the question that was on everyone's mind. Can we win against the entire galaxy if it comes to that? Elena considered the question carefully before responding. The builders designed these systems to hold against threats much greater than any single galaxy could produce. But our success depends on how wisely we use the time we have to prepare. She brought up manufacturing schedules and crew training requirements that painted a daunting picture of the challenges ahead. We need to transition from a planet-bound species to galactic guardians in a matter of months. It will require unprecedented cooperation and sacrifice from every nation on Earth. President Chen nodded decisively. What do you need from us, Professor? Everything, Elena replied simply. Every engineer, scientist, military officer, and skilled worker on the planet will be needed to master builder technology before the galaxy comes calling. We're about to become the inheritors of the most advanced defensive network in known space, but only if we can prove worthy of that inheritance. Director Petrov leaned back in his chair, the magnitude of the situation clearly weighing on him. Humanity has spent its entire history fighting among ourselves. Now you're telling us we need to unite against threats we can barely comprehend. The builders chose us for a reason, Elena said firmly. Every war we've fought, every struggle we've endured, every challenge we've overcome has prepared us for this moment. We are a species that has never accepted defeat, never surrendered in the face of impossible odds. That's exactly what the galaxy is going to need. Through the reinforced walls of the Antarctic facility, Elena could feel the vibrations of ancient machinery awakening across the planet. Humanity's trial by fire was about to begin, and the entire galaxy would be watching to see if Earth's children were worthy of their cosmic inheritance. Captain Lisa Park felt the subtle hum of alien technology merged with human engineering as the Earth defense vessel Retribution completed its final systems check above the lunar construction yards. The ship represented something entirely new. In galactic history, a fusion of builder wisdom and human innovation that had produced capabilities neither civilization could have achieved alone. All stations report ready for departure, announced her first officer, Commander Alex Torres, his voice carrying the mixture of excitement and apprehension that had become common since humanity inherited their cosmic responsibilities. Park nodded as she studied the tactical displays, showing the crippled alien vessel attempting to limp toward the edge of the solar system. Its distress signals had been broadcasting for 6 hours now, and Earth's newly awakened sensor networks were detecting response patterns from deep space that confirmed their worst fears. Long-range sensors are tracking multiple fleet formations, converging on our position, reported Lieutenant Davies from the sensor station. Intelligence analysis suggests we have approximately 68 hours before the first reinforcement fleet arrives. In-system Park absorbed this information with the calm professionalism of someone who had trained for impossible scenarios her entire military career. The crash course in builder technology had been intense, condensing millions of years of advanced engineering into weeks of desperate study. But humanity had always excelled at learning under pressure. What's our fleet status? She asked, knowing the answer would determine their survival chances against galactic military forces. Commander Torres consulted the holographic fleet display with practiced efficiency. 12 builder tech vessels completed and operational. 6 more will be ready within 24 hours. The lunar yards are producing new ships at maximum capacity, but we're limited by crew training requirements. Park studied the numbers with a mixture of pride and concern. 18 ships against what intelligence estimates suggested would be hundreds or thousands of alien vessels. The mathematics were daunting, but the builders had faced similar odds for millions of years and survived. What about the outer system defensive installations? She inquired, remembering the briefings about weapons platforms hidden among the gas giant moons. Jupiter's moon network reports full operational status, Torres replied. Saturn's defensive rings are coming online ahead of schedule. The asteroid belt installations are at 90% readiness. If we fight defensively, we can make them pay dearly for every light second of space. Park shook her head firmly. Defensive warfare won't work against superior numbers. The builders didn't survive by hiding behind fortifications. They survived by making aggression too costly to sustain. She turned to her tactical officer with the kind of smile that had made her legendary among Earth's military academies. Lieutenant Park, plot intercept courses for the outer system. We're going to give these galactic civilizations a lesson in human warfare adapted to builder capabilities. The Retribution and her sister ships began moving with purpose toward the distant positions where physics dictated the alien fleets would drop out of hyperspace behind them. The automated manufacturing systems inherited from humanity's predecessors worked at capacity to produce weapons and ships at rates that would have seemed impossible just weeks ago, Captain. Her communications officer called out urgently. We're receiving transmissions from the damaged alien vessel. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies, including channels we didn't know existed. Put it through, Park ordered. Curious to hear what the survivors had to say. The bridge speakers filled with alien voices speaking in languages that the builder translation systems rendered into perfect English. Fear and desperation colored their words, but underneath lay something more troubling, genuine confusion and disbelief. Unknown human vessels, the transmission began. We surrender unconditionally. Please identify the galactic power that provided you with this technology. Our records show no civilization in this region capable of such advanced warfare. Park exchanged glances with her senior officers. The aliens still couldn't believe that humanity possessed advanced technology independently. Their entire worldview was based on assumptions about which species were primitive and which were advanced. This is Captain Park of the Earth Defense Force, she replied. We are acting independently, defending our sovereign territory against unprovoked aggression. Your attack fleet has been destroyed, and reinforcements will face the same fate. If they continue hostile operations, the alien response came after a long pause filled with frantic background conversations. Impossible. Your species has barely achieved interplanetary flight. Where are the ships from your patron civilization? What galactic power is protecting you? Park smiled grimly as she realized the fundamental misunderstanding that was about to cost the galaxy dearly. We have no patrons. Earth stands alone, as we always have. Your mistake was assuming that current technology represents historical capabilities. Before the aliens could respond, her sensor operator called out with urgency. Captain, I'm detecting hyperspace emergent signatures at the system's edge. Multiple contacts. Large formation. The first response fleet has arrived early. Park studied the tactical display as dozens of alien vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. Heavy cruisers, battleships, and support vessels arranged in formations that spoke of centuries of military experience and doctrine. Time to contact? She asked, her mind already shifting into combat mode. 4 hours at their current approach speed, Davies reported. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies demanding our surrender and the identification of our galactic patrons. Park turned to address her bridge crew, seeing the mixture of fear and determination that had characterized humanity's response to every existential threat they had ever faced. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to demonstrate why the builders chose Earth as their final bastion. The human fleet adjusted course to intercept the alien formation, while automated systems across the solar system prepared for the kind of warfare that hadn't been seen in this galaxy for millions of years. Hidden among Jupiter's moons, weapons, platforms that had waited patiently since before Earth's ice ages began powering up for combat. All ships. This is retribution, Park broadcast to her small but deadly fleet. We fight not just for Earth but for the principle that no species has the right to conquest another. The aliens came here expecting easy prey, but they're about to learn that humans don't surrender, don't retreat, and don't forgive unprovoked aggression. Through her viewports, Park could see the distant glints of alien ships moving against the starfield like predators approaching what they assumed was helpless prey. They would soon discover that humanity's inheritance included not just advanced technology, but the accumulated tactical knowledge of a civilization that had defended the galaxy for eons. The Battle of Sol was about to begin, and it would determine whether Earth's children were worthy of their cosmic legacy. Fleet Admiral Corvin felt the familiar sensation of hyperspace translation as his massive battle fleet dropped back into normal space at the edge of the Sol system, expecting to find the wreckage of primitive human vessels and evidence of whatever galactic power had been foolish enough to interfere with coalition operations. Instead, his sensor operators began reporting readings that defied every tactical assumption he had made about this backwater system during the 3-day journey from coalition headquarters. The human vessels waiting for his arrival displayed energy, signatures that matched no known technology in the Galactic Database report. He demanded from his command throne aboard the dreadnought Galactic Sovereign, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had crushed 17 rebellions and conquered 43 star systems during his career. Commander Vex, his chief tactical officer, manipulated the holographic display with increasing concern. "Sir, we have 18 human vessels in active formation. Their energy signatures are completely outside our experience. Some of these ships register as larger than our own dreadnoughts." Corvin studied the tactical readout with growing unease. The human formation showed sophisticated strategic positioning that spoke of experienced fleet commanders, rather than primitive planetary defenders. More troubling was the complete absence of his reconnaissance fleet that should have been waiting to provide detailed intelligence. "Where are Admiral Wrath's vessels?" he asked, though part of him already suspected the answer. "Unknown, sir," Vex replied grimly. "No transponder signals, no wreckage signatures, no distress beacons. It's as if they simply vanished." The human fleet began moving with coordinated precision that sent alarm signals through Corvin's tactical awareness. These weren't the desperate maneuvers of outmatched defenders. This was the calculated advance of predators who understood their prey's capabilities and limitations. "All ships assume defensive formation," Corvin ordered, his confidence shaken by the professional competence he was witnessing. "Prepare for long-range engagement. I want to see what these humans can do before we commit to close combat." The lead human vessel opened fire at a distance that should have been impossible for kinetic weapons, and Corvin watched in horror as streams of projectiles moving at relativistic speeds crossed millions of kilometers to strike his forward escorts. Ships that had served the coalition for decades simply disintegrated under impacts that overwhelmed every known defensive system. "Return fire," he screamed as his formation began taking casualties that shouldn't have been possible. "All weapons, concentrate firepower on their lead vessels." The coalition fleet's particle beams and plasma cannons reached across space toward the human ships, only to encounter energy shields that absorbed and redirected their attacks with casual efficiency. Worse, the humans appeared to be using the absorbed energy to power their own weapon systems. "Admiral," Commander Vex called out in panic as his tactical displays showed readings that violated known physics. "They're not just defending against our weapons. They're feeding on them. Every shot we fire makes them stronger." Corvin felt ice forming in his bloodstream as he realized the true horror of their situation. The coalition had encountered a civilization that treated their most advanced weapons as a power source. It was like fighting an enemy that grew stronger from every wound inflicted upon them. "Cease fire," he ordered desperately. "All ships, cease fire immediately." But the damage was already done. The human vessels had absorbed enough energy from the coalition barrage to power weapons that began systematically dismantling his fleet with surgical precision. Each shot was calculated not for destruction, but for specific tactical effects, crippling ships rather than destroying them outright. Through his command viewports, Corvin watched the destroyer Swift Retribution simply come apart as human weapons. Systems demonstrated capabilities that suggested technology millions of years more advanced than anything the Coalition possessed. "How is this possible?" he whispered as his flagship shuddered under precisely targeted strikes that disabled weapons and propulsion, while leaving life support intact. Intelligence reported them as barely capable of interplanetary flight. Where did they acquire such technology? His answer came from an impossible source, a human voice speaking perfect galactic standard through his ship's communication systems. "Fleet Admiral Corvin of the Coalition Forces, this is Captain Park of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is defeated. Surrender now and your crews will be spared." "Identify your patron civilization," Corvin demanded, still unable to accept that humans could possess such capabilities independently. "What galactic power provided you with this technology? No primitive species could develop such advanced systems." The human captain's response chilled him with its casual confidence. "We have no patrons, Admiral. Earth stands alone, as we always have. Your error was assuming our current development level represented our historical capabilities." Before Corvin could process this impossibility, his tactical officer reported another nightmare scenario developing. "Sir, massive energy signatures emerging from the gas giant moons. Unknown installations are powering up across the entire system." Through his sensors, Corvin watched in growing terror as Jupiter's moons revealed themselves to be disguised weapons platforms of incredible size and power. Saturn's rings began reconfiguring into defensive formations that suggested manufacturing capability on a stellar scale. "This is impossible," he repeated desperately. "No single world could contain such installations. These defensive networks would require the resources of an entire galactic civilization." The human captain's voice returned with an edge of steel that spoke of absolute conviction. "Admiral, you and your people made a fundamental error in judgment. You assumed that because we choose to live simply, we are simple. You confused preference for capability. Earth is not defenseless. Earth chooses to appear defenseless." As if to emphasize the point, weapons fire from the Jupiter installations reached across the solar system to bracket his remaining ships with precision that left no doubt about their helplessness. They weren't being attacked. They were being herded like livestock. "The ancient enemy is stirring beyond our galaxy," the human continued. "The builders left us guardians of defensive networks that span multiple spiral arms. Your aggression has forced us to reveal capabilities we preferred to keep hidden." Corvin felt his worldview crumbling as the implications became clear. Humanity wasn't a primitive species that had somehow acquired advanced technology. They were the inheritors of a galactic defense network that predated most known civilizations. "Surrender," he whispered, the word tasting of defeat and revelation. "All ships, stand down weapons and prepare for surrender protocols," as his proud fleet submitted to capture by beings the galaxy had dismissed as primitives. Corvin realized that the balance of power in known space had just shifted fundamentally. Earth's children were no longer hiding among the stars. They were announcing their presence to the galaxy, and that announcement would change everything. 3 months after the Battle of Sol transformed humanity from galactic primitives to a recognized stellar power, Captain Park stood in the observation lounge of Earth Defense Headquarters and watched construction crews putting finishing touches on the first interstellar exploration vessel to bear human markings alongside builder technology. The orbital station around Earth had grown from a simple research platform to a massive command center that coordinated defensive operations across 12 star systems. Through the massive viewports, she could see the shipyards that now produced vessels capable of challenging any military force in known space. Dr. Elena Rodriguez joined her at the observation deck, both women contemplating the profound changes that had swept not just their species, but the entire galactic community in the wake of humanity's revelation. "The other civilizations have gone completely silent," Elena reported, No more probe ships, no reconnaissance attempts, no diplomatic overtures. Our long-range sensors suggest they've withdrawn their fleets to core system defensive positions. Park nodded with satisfaction, tempered by concern. Fear was indeed a powerful deterrent, but it could also breed resentment and eventual retaliation if not properly managed. Have we learned anything more about their intentions? The interrogations of the captured crews have been enlightening, Elena replied. They genuinely believed they were dealing with primitives who had somehow stolen advanced technology from a patron civilization. The concept that we developed, it independently or inherited it legitimately, never occurred to them. Park smiled grimly as she remembered the shock on Admiral Corvin's face when he realized humanity's true capabilities. Their entire social structure is based on the assumption that technological advancement follows predictable patterns. They can't comprehend a species that appears primitive but commands ancient power. Elena activated a holographic display that showed the current political situation across known space. Dozens of civilizations that had previously viewed Earth as a potential conquest target were now scrambling to understand the implications of humanity's revealed capabilities. The builder records are becoming clearer as our translation protocols improve, Elena continued. They weren't just galactic gardeners or defensive architects. They were the galaxy's first line of defense against something much worse. Something that comes from the void between galaxies. Park felt a chill run down her spine as she studied the astronomical data Elena was displaying. Deep space sensors inherited from the builders were detecting gravitational anomalies and energy signatures from the intergalactic medium that suggested movement on a scale that dwarfed anything within their own spiral arm. How long have these signals been active? Park asked, though she suspected the answer would reshape humanity's understanding of their cosmic situation. The automated systems indicate the anomalies began approximately 6 months ago, Elena replied grimly. The timeline suggests that our activation of the builder network sent some kind of signal into deep space. We may have inadvertently announced our presence to whatever destroyed the original builder civilization. Park studied the sensor data with growing alarm. If the builders, with all their advanced technology and millions of years of experience, had been defeated by whatever lurked in the cosmic void, what chance did humanity have against such a threat? The other galactic civilizations will need to make a choice soon, she said finally. They can either join us in preparing for this external threat, or they can continue viewing us as competitors for galactic dominance until it's too late. For any of us. Elena nodded as she manipulated the display to show communication intercepts from various alien governments. Our diplomatic corps is already reaching out to the more reasonable civilizations. The Centauri Republic seems interested in cooperation, and the Vegan Confederacy has requested technical exchanges. But the Coalition and several other major powers are still treating us as a threat to be contained. Park turned her attention to the tactical displays showing human fleet positions throughout the local stellar group. Builder manufacturing systems had produced over 200 vessels in the past 3 months, each one crewed by humans who had undergone intensive training in technologies that challenged their understanding of physics. What's our current defensive posture? She asked, knowing that preparation time was running out faster than anyone had anticipated. Every habitable world within 50 light years now has orbital defensive platforms, Elena reported. The builder network extends much further than we initially realized. We've activated installations and systems that haven't seen intelligent life for millions of years. Park studied the expanding network of defensive positions with professional admiration. The builders had planned their final stand with incredible thoroughness, creating redundant layers of protection that could theoretically hold against threats beyond current human comprehension. But there's something else, Elena continued, her voice dropping to convey the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. The builder records include references to other defensive networks in distant galaxies. We're not alone in this fight. There are other species across the universe who inherited similar responsibilities. Park felt a surge of hope mixed with determination. If humanity could contact these distant allies and coordinate their defensive efforts, they might stand a chance against whatever had destroyed the original builder civilization. How do we make contact across intergalactic distances? she asked, knowing that conventional faster-than-light communication wouldn't work across such vast spaces. Alina smiled for the first time in weeks as she activated another set of displays. The builders left us quantum entanglement communication, arrays that can reach across the cosmic web itself. We've already begun receiving responses from other Guardian species. They've been waiting for our network to activate. Park stared at the incoming data streams with amazement. Messages from species so alien that translation required builder-level artificial intelligence, all sharing the same basic message. They were not alone. The ancient enemy was indeed returning, and the final battle for galactic survival was approaching. How many Guardian networks are still active? Park asked, trying to comprehend the scope of the coming conflict. 17 confirmed, with possibly dozens more that haven't responded yet, Elena replied. Each one represents a species that proved worthy of inheriting builder technology and accepting the responsibility that comes with it. Through the observation deck viewports, Park could see the newest human vessels preparing for their first interstellar patrols, ships that combined human determination with ancient wisdom, crewed by a species that had spent its entire existence learning how to survive against impossible odds. The galaxy dismissed us as primitive and ancient, Park said quietly. They were wrong about primitive, but they were absolutely right about ancient. We are the inheritors of humanity's oldest responsibility. Elena nodded as she watched, the ships departing for distant star systems. The age of human expansion into the galaxy has begun, but not as conquerors or even explorers. We're taking our place as guardians of everything that lives and dreams and hopes in this spiral arm. Across the solar system, automated sensors placed by the builders eons ago continued their patient watch of the intergalactic void, deep in the darkness between galaxies. Ancient enemies that had slumbered for millions of years were stirring to consciousness, drawn by the activation of defensive networks they thought they had destroyed forever. But this time, they would find the galaxy prepared. Earth's children had inherited not just advanced technology, but the accumulated wisdom and determination of every species that had ever chosen to stand against the darkness. The final test of humanity's worthiness as cosmic guardians was about to begin, and in the deep places between the stars, where light itself feared to venture, something vast and hungry turned its attention toward the bright spiral of the Milky Way, unaware that this time, the galaxy's defenders would be ready.